This video is going to explain the link between ratios and fractions, and it's also going to explain how to simplify ratios. So we're going to start off with this little model here, these blocks. So you should already be able to write down what the ratio of green to pink is. So green to pink is the ratio 4 to 4, and this is a bit of a special ratio. This is fair shares. So if I pop that there, 4 to 4, first of all let's look at the fractions. So let's start with the green. Green, the fraction is 4 out of, well, we could count them all, or we could just notice there's 4 green and 4 pink, so it's 4 out of 8. And then you've got the pink. Pink is also 4 out of 8. Now you may remember how to simplify fractions. It's spot the times table. You might notice that 4 and 8 are both in the same times table. There's 1 4 on the top and there's 2 4s on the bottom. 1 4 on the top and 2 4s on the bottom. So there's no surprise there. There's half of it is green and half of it is pink. So those are the fractions. And the ratio can also be simplified. Just like we've gone from 4/8 to a half, and that's called cancelling, or cancelled down, we can also do the same with the ratio. Now, if you look at 4 and 4, you look for the same, what numbers, what times table they're both in. You might notice they're both in the 2 times table. So we can think of it like this. For every 2 green, there's 2 pink. So we can write that ratio as 2 to 2. Or we could notice that for every 1 green, there's a pink. 1 to 1. And every single fair share ratio will turn into 1 to 1. And if we look at that, you can see that the green is 1 out of, and there's 2 blocks, they add up to 2, so it's 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2, or a half. So that's fair shares, but what about something that's not in fair shares? Well, here's something that's not in fair shares. We've got yellow and red. So we've got yellow and red, and at the moment we've got 6 yellow to 2 red. Let's look at the fractions first. So the fraction that is red is 2 out of, we could add them all up, or we could just notice there's 6 and 2, it must be out of 8. So red is 2/8. Yellow is 6/8. So those are the fractions for the red and the yellow. This is the ratio that shows how they're related. But we can simplify that because 6 and 2 are both in the 2 times table. So we can split our ratio up like this. We can think of it as, for every 3 yellow, there's 1 red. So we could say 3 to 1, and that's the same ratio. Let's have a look at the fractions for that one. That's 1 out of 4, and that's 3 out of 4. So we've got 1/4 and 3/4. And notice how we've halved both the numbers, and we've cancelled the fractions by dividing by 2 as well. Half of 6 is 3 and half of 8 is 4. So there are simpler ways of writing ratios, which your teacher will probably spend a bit longer going into and answering your question. Finally, we're just going to have a look at how it works with something else, so with money. So I'm going to share money between me and you. I'm going to share £1.20. So I've got £1 to 20p. Now, how can I simplify that ratio? Well, the trouble is at the moment is that there are different things. There's pounds over here and pennies over here, and we shouldn't try and do anything until we've made them into the same type of thing. because the 20 is obviously looks like the bigger number, but we all know that this 1 here is worth more than the 20 because of the pound sign. So what we should do is we should try and make them into the same sort of thing. Now, I'm not going to put 100 pennies here. I'm going to convert them into, well, I'm going to convert them into pennies. I'm going to use 10 pence pieces. So 20p there, and a pound here. There we go, there's 10 of those. Let's make sure I've got 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's the other 5 there. So I can now change my ratio. I can make the units the same. So on this side I've got 100p, and on this side I've got 20p. And once they're both the same, we can basically remove the units. Now, remember what we did with the blocks. We can divide both sides by the same thing, so we can divide them both by 10. So we've got 10 to 2, and you can see that here actually. We've got 10 coins there to 2 coins here. But we can make it simpler. We can do it 5 to 1. So for every 5 coins that I get, you get 1. For every 5 coins that I get, you get 1. And we call this one here, this is the simplest ratio, because you can't split it down further without turning it into decimals or fractions, and we don't normally do that with ratio. We normally leave them as whole numbers, as integers, and that's the simplest. But it's the same relationship. 1 to 5 is the same as 2 to 10, which is the same as £1 to 20p. And if I grab my 20p's, you can even see that makes sense, because I'm sure you all know how many 20p's make a pound. That's right, it's 5. So I could replace the £1 with 5 20p's. So the ratio is 1 to 5. And you can do this with pounds and pence, you can do it with kilograms and grams, you can do it in meters and centimeters, all sorts of things. But the important bit is right here, going from pounds and pence into just pence. You must always convert into the same thing.